and welcome to my channel. Today we are going to be doing another custom design tutorial. Today's custom design is going to be a dirt path. I recently on Instagram posted a photo of a dirt path that I've recently made, and I'm going to show you guys how I made that. It's like surrounded by little cobblestones. It's really cute. There are a lot of similar paths out there, but if you don't have Nintendo Online or you want something custom like flowers or just a certain color scheme on it, then this will be a good way of showing it yourselves. The very first thing is to make the first dirt square. This dirt square is much like any other dirt square that is out there. I made mine to look very similar to like the dirt path that everybody is using with the pixelation corners. Also the same as my Daisy dirt path, which I've already made a tutorial on in the past. So if you want, I can go ahead and link that in the description down below. There's not much to it. The colors are on that video, but that's the color scheme that I chose. You can go lighter, a little more orangey for like a sand a la Colin Crossing, you know, or, you know, just pink. If you want pink dirt, you can have pink dirt. You can do anything you want, but I went ahead and went with this very basic one. So let's get into just doing that. I copied and pasted all of the squares like around the outside edge because I am just going to use the same dirt square. It makes it easy, cohesive. And then we're going to start with the stones. Feel free to pause it and copy the stones that I'm making if you would like, or go ahead and make your own. But I'm just doing the top left corner right now, and it's just the first thing I do is I start with like an outline and then I give it dimension afterwards, but I just want the basic shape of the stones set down first. So I go ahead and I do that, and now I add all of the shadows, and I go ahead and do that around all of the edges, pretty much working just by color. Like as I go down the color, I just switch out and I do all of the colors that I might want in that shade, and then I go back and do the highlights last because I don't know, I just always do highlights last. It's the same when I'm drawing too, so I guess that's just a thing with layers, right? So I go ahead and I make the highlights, the shadows, and I envision my light source being on the top left, much like always, because that is the light source I always envision for these custom codes. It really helps to, like, when you make more and more paths, to have like a cohesive light source, so that way if you use past designs along with your new designs, then your light is still coming from the same direction, so they kind of go together, you know what I mean? So I'm just going to work my way around all of the edges and do all of the shadings and all of the shadows and all of the stones and all of the patterns and all of those things. And I will go ahead and just give you some other tips and tricks on how I work this out. Now, to decide a color scheme, for me, this time I was making it into a mush path. So I really wanted like something that would go in summer or fall, because I wasn't exactly sure if I'm going to have this island in the fall or the summer. It is going to be a mush core island, but I wanted something that would show up either way. So that was one of my first things that I considered. Then I considered what kind of stones I wanted. Did I want them to have like a brownish tint? Did I want them to be like completely gray? What were the colors that I was making my flowers, my accent pieces, my mushrooms? I decided all of those colors in advance to make sure that they were going to be cohesive before I even started on the drawing. I decided my color palette. Also, when you do your main dirt path, the way that I do this one in particular and the way the texture is that I kind of clump the highlights and the darkness together, like in patches, and it makes it look a little more realistic when you're running over it. So it's not completely like every other pixel. It's not so scattered. It looks like the ground has this kind of uneven just sort of tone to it, like where there's patches of evenness and unevenness. So That's another thing that I do when I'm making the original piece. Also, I do this part last, like where I take away all of the color around the outer edge. And the reason I do that is because I want to make sure where my shadows and my highlights are, I want to make sure I don't like take away any of the color. It's really hard to envision where the stones are going to be if you already block off what the clear pixels are. So it's just easier to leave the dirt in there and then go ahead and work around that and make your clear pixels around where your stones are. I do leave like a gap, but then I add like a shadow of dirt so that it does connect to the other pieces still. It is best to stay 1 to 2 pixels from the edge when you're making these paths. And the reason for that is because they fit together with a multitude of pieces with all of the rest of the pieces if they all on each corner line up in the same place. So you want to keep them around 1 to 2 pixels, so that way if you do this piece next to a center piece, it's not going to be completely off, because even though that goes off to the edge, all the way to the edge, 1 pixel is not going to make a huge difference, 1 or 2 pixels. Whereas if you did it with like, 5 or 6 pixels, then you'll start getting that like square corner effect that nobody wants. So that's the other thing. I didn't want to make this path too complicated, so I didn't make inner corner pieces. I found a way to just kind of make it work with the regular plain center piece and also a couple of variations, because I like variations. And yeah, so that was the other thing that I was considering at the time, was if I was going to do like a centerpiece, if I was going to do a more angled version of the corners so that there would be like a little variation. I just wanted to know how much I was going to invest into this piece. But because it's a mush core island, I wanted a puddle, I wanted another like kind of broken brick path, and then I wanted like so many other variations of custom designs that I realized that wasn't going to be very feasible for me on this island. And I always keep 7 or 8 design slots empty until the very end so that I can make new patterns for these videos, because otherwise I wouldn't have any space to make new pathways. So there's always that to consider as well. So I have to be wise with my custom design slots. So I didn't make it too extensive, but I did make it work, like if you wanted this to be like your main path, or if you wanted it to be an accent path for like garden beds and whatnot. So I tried to make it work for both situations. The other thing I'm going to tell you is that if it does not work out for you the very first time, do not fear, it gets easier. So the very first custom designs I made were not good at all, like in any way, shape, or form. They were bad. They were really bad. I was definitely not a Colin Crossing for sure. I'm not picking on him. He's amazing. It's just that, I did not have that level of talent. I did not believe myself like capable of that level of talent. And I draw in my free time. So it's kind of funny. But, some of these custom design creators were absolutely amazing, and I was just like, there's no way. I might as well just make my island around whatever colors that they've already set up for me in their custom designs, because I'm never going to be able to do this. This is just beyond my scope of what I can manage. But then I practiced, and with practice comes mastery. You get a hang of it. You learn, you figure out what the pixels are doing, because pixel art in Animal Crossing is not the same as regular pixel art. I will tell you that. It does help if you draw things maybe, or if you look at pixel graphs on the internet, like from crochet patterns or like those perler bead kind of patterns, and if you try to do those in the pixel art in Animal Crossing and then learn how to adjust them to make them work with the Animal Crossing software, then that is a good way to go about it. I mean, there are ways of making any custom code you want inside of the app, the custom design editor online, or custompatterns.com. the website online, you can like pretty much upload any picture and have it turn into a custom code for you. And that's always really cool too. You can use it just to make patterns if you wanted to. So that's also a thing. But just, you know, practice. That is the biggest thing about this, is just practicing. It does help if you're like me and you pick a light source at the very beginning, so you know where your highlights and shadows are going to be. That is like one of the most helpful things, is to know where your light's coming from, because light is, I mean, it's something that as an artist you study for like months and months and years. I'm still in my drawing very afraid of light. Like, I'm afraid to use bold colors in lights and like use reflective colors and whatnot. I'm not as brave in my personal art as I am in Animal Crossing art, so I still struggle with light in real life. So after this, I went ahead and I made some single tile pathways, and when I did that, I went ahead and I grabbed one side, like the top or the bottom, and then I went and added the other bottom piece to it. Right now I'm making an end piece, so I went and just grabbed a piece and tried to make it work around the top piece. That doesn't end up working too well for me. I left it in to show you guys like how it worked out the first time, in case you want to try it like this. In the future, I went ahead and just removed all of it and started from the very beginning, except for the center pieces. The center pieces, I was able to just take one side and then make the other side to kind of match it a little bit. But on these corner pieces, it didn't work out as well, because I wanted them to be shaped just a little bit differently, and that wasn't working for me in this. So yeah, this one, it was okay. Not my favorite, I don't think, but it was all right. And it's really hard to judge like whether or not you really like dirt and rocks, right? So I can't really say. I mean, I guess it was all right. But on the next one, when I worked on the single piece, then that one worked out fine, just doing one side and leaving the side from the regular piece, from the 9-piece part. That ended up working out just fine. So if I'm repeating myself, go ahead and ignore me. But for the main color scheme of this, for the main dirt path, what I did with the colors was that I picked a color that I liked, and I went ahead and added one shade of darkness, like the very brightness on the bottom. I did one shade darker and one shade lighter for the texture, and then I went another shade darker for the shadow color and another shade darker for the darkest shadow color. So there are 5 color slots that go into the main dirt. And then for the rocks, I picked a main color and then 2 shadow colors that were 1 shade darker. And then the highlight shade is actually 2 shades lighter. So that's kind of the direction I went in with that. The mush colors that I went with are like the red all the way at the very end. I put the vividness in the middle because I didn't want it too bright red or too overly saturated. And then the shades that I wanted, I went ahead and made the middle color, and then I brought the darker shadow to the right, and then the highlight the darker shadow 2 to the left and the highlight 2 to the right. Yeah, I know my sense of direction. Sorry, I was trying to envision the palette in my head, and it doesn't work the same as like the vividness and the brightness go in opposite directions. That always throws me a little bit off when I'm trying to describe things, so I am so sorry about that. Either way, I just went 2 shades lighter and 2 shades darker. I kept the hues very cohesive for this particular design, just because I didn't really want to mess with them too much. I don't know if I was just feeling lazy that day or if I just liked it without messing with the hues too much. Or the saturation, I just didn't want to mess with all of that. I felt like it would throw everything off. So yeah, this is what I ended up doing for the rest of the corners though. I just went and started all over again and created my outlines and worked it exactly the same way I did with the rest of the path. And I think that is it. That's all I had for like tips and tricks. I use the line tool for almost everything because it's just easier to draw with for me, rather than having to hold A down and move my analog stick, just because of the way my fingers work. It's just easier for me to use the line tool, but that is just a matter of personal preference. So you can most definitely use the regular drawing tool, pencil tool, if you'd like. I'm going to let you watch me finish this up, and I'll come back to you when I get to the final accent pieces. So this is the very end of the main path. I'm kind of happy with how it came out. I do use this path on my island. There are the single tile pieces, and that's how that came out. And then here is the main path and how it looks on my island, and I do like it. I did go ahead and change it and add mushrooms and stuff to it and pixelized it more. So here's how I added the mushrooms. It's nothing fancy, just like squares with little dots in the middle, and then I added like a regular daisy flower and tiny flowers all around these paths, and then I pixelated it because I just wanted the grass to show through. So this is what my final version of this came out to be like, and if you guys want to make it like this, or if you want this path, then I will go ahead and put the creator code down in the description, and I do have two versions of the plain path and this mush version up there. And hopefully you guys like this. I really enjoy making these tutorials. I love the comments that I get for you guys. I am working on a road tutorial. I really am, but there is a lot of pieces that go into that, so give me a little bit of time. I hope everyone is having an amazing day. I know you guys could be doing absolutely anything, and you're spending time here with me. I appreciate you so much for that. Shout out to my channel members. You guys are amazing, and I absolutely love you. If you want to hang out with me live, you can visit me over on Twitch. I stream there every Thursday and Sunday. It's a great little crowd that comes over there. And if you want to hang out with me in person, I do lives in the Discord all the time because I get bored. And I will talk to you guys later. Have a wonderful day. Bye.